Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to officially again welcome you to Selling the King's Table. As you're coming in right now, I ask, as always, that you do me a favor. And if you would go ahead right now and share this live, I promise you this is something that you want to be a part of. I'm going to take a moment right now myself and share it on my personal page as we are on our group page now. So if you would invite someone in, if you know someone that is an entrepreneur, you want to please go ahead and tag them in this. Make sure that they are they're alive, they're well, and that they are in on this conversation. This is going to be a great conversation. I promise you that you don't want to miss at all. As you're coming in too, as well, if you are an entrepreneur, I ask that you comment and tag your business in the comment section. If you're located anywhere outside of the state of Alabama, make sure that you comment your city and state from which you're watching right now. And again, tag another entrepreneur. If there's another entrepreneur who's just like you, who's a Christian entrepreneur, who's been in business for 5 minutes, 5 years, 50 years, make sure that you invite them into this. Hit that share button as fast as you can, because I promise you, this live right now, this conversation is getting ready to change your whole mindset. If you've been waiting for a mindset shift and you're just like, man, I'm just stuck right now in life, I need some answers. This conversation that's getting ready to take place is about to be huge. So go ahead and share this. Invite someone in. Also, as you're watching this right now, if you're watching this and you come across this page for the first time, there will be a link that simply, or a button that says follow somewhere in your comment section. You want to make sure that you go ahead and you click on that button to make sure that you're following us, so that you can be alerted at any time that we go live or upload any type of content here on this page. A little bit about Selling the King's Table as you all are coming in. For those who are just running across this page for the very first time, Selling the King's Table has been created for Christian entrepreneurs and business-minded people just like yourself. I personally have over 15 years of sales experience and have been passionate about sales for so long. There's two analogies that if you ever talk to me about Selling the King's Table that I give you, I think I gave the cliff, jumping off the cliff analogy a couple weeks ago as we interviewed Derek Ramey from the Dapper Dude collection. But this week I want to give you the Ferrari analogy and why we exist as a community here at Selling the King's Table. So this is what I strongly believe. I strongly believe that there are so many people out there just like yourself who have great products, great services, or have simply a great idea. Maybe you haven't launched that business yet, and it's just an idea that's been kind of sitting in your head. What I believe is that the important thing that every entrepreneur should invest in first, before they invest in a website, before they invest in a logo or anything like that, I believe there's one thing that every entrepreneur should invest in, and that is a sales process for your business. A sales process for your business, and here's the analogy here, the Ferrari analogy, is that not having a sales process is equivalent to going out, purchasing a Ferrari. It looks really good, it's in your driveway, but it has no engine. So there will be people who will drive by in your community, in your neighborhood, who will be like, hey, man, that's a very nice car. Man, that's a Ferrari. That's really nice. It looks really good, but it can't go anywhere. You know, you can get a couple guys or a couple friends behind you to push it and roll it from one place to the next in the driveway. But if you're trying to take it on the road, if you're trying to take it mainstream, you're going to need an engine. And that engine is your sales process. That is something that you can implement into your company that outlives you. It is something that regardless of whether you're there or not, the business continues to move forward. What I found out is that there are a lot of entrepreneurs who have great ideas, who have great products and services, but just simply like the understanding of how do I actually sell this? How do I actually get people to buy this consistently? What does the customer journey looks like for my industry or for my business? And that's simply why Selling the King's Table has been created. So that I believe one of my major roles is to help entrepreneurs just like yourself implement those processes. So if you're a person, you say, look, I'm right there with you, man. I'm hearing what you're saying. And I've been doing this for a couple of years and I feel like I'm just at a stagnant point. I'm at a point where I'm just still and I need some extra help. I need that extra push. Selling the King's Table is for you. And quite frankly, how the name came about, because a lot of people ask me that, how does the name come about? I was actually, my special guest that's about to come on right now, I was actually in the service at Beacon Hill Worship Center. And I've had this passion for selling for so long. And I've always had a passion about teaching and training entrepreneurs about how to sell, how to go through the process, how to map out a customer journey, how to take a customer from inquiring all the way to the exchanging of product or goods, whether they're buying your product or service, whether you're a life coach, counselor, you're in the t-shirt or makeup industry, whatever it may be. We've created these processes for you. So what I was doing, I was in church, and while I was in church, I had this vision, and in this vision, there was a king. And if you know anything about the Bible is about a king and his kingdom. And I was envisioning this big table, this luxury table, and the king says, "Look, I need you to sell my table." And I was in a room filled with other salespeople. And while I was in this room with these salespeople, everyone started to talk. There was this chatter about, hey, how do I, I'm going to make so much money on this. I'm going to, I'm going to market this way. It's the King's Table. It's a one of a kind. My profit margin is going to be high. And I felt there was a responsibility that he shared with me, that when he was talking, almost like he was talking directly to me in this crowded room, that basically said, look, you got to sell my table. And what are you going to do differently than any other entrepreneur and any other business person in this world that as it relates to selling my table? And I felt that weight of responsibility because I feel like the gift that he's given me, I'm here to share it with the world. So that's how Selling the King's Table started. So this is an introduction to this community here for Christian entrepreneurs. So if you know someone, again, comment them, bring them into this community. There's a follow tab that's going to populate on your comment screen somewhere. Make sure you click that follow button if you're coming across this page for the first time. I'm happy to announce that we're actually right now also streaming for the first time, not only on Facebook, but on YouTube too as well. So when you finish we finish this live, please go over to YouTube and make sure that you subscribe to Selling the King's Table YouTube channel. I'm excited about this. Look, if you're in this room, let me pull out my phone. If you are in this room and you're excited about what's getting ready to take place, I want you to give me some hearts as fast as you can. Hit that heart button as fast as you can. Comment, I'm ready. Let me know that you're excited about what's getting ready to take place. If you have not or never ever met my special guest that I'm about to bring on right now, go ahead. I don't know where you are. If you're at home, please take a seat. Buckle up if you're in the car, please. Take all safety measures right now. Get you a cup of coffee, get you a cup of tea, whatever you drink, cup of tea, water, coffee, whatever. And as Pastor Diggs always say, you want to get a pen and paper out and take some copious notes, because I promise you, this is about to get very off the hook in a good way. I said off the hook. That's like dating me. I'm young, but that just really dated me. Oh, well. So I see some people saying they're ready. I'm ready to bring them on right now. My special guest tonight is my pastor, Superintendent Anthony Wheeler from Madison, Alabama. He is the senior pastor of Beacon Hill Worship Center in Madison, Alabama. If you're ever in the area when the church doors open back up, you want to make sure that you come if you can. If not, I want to encourage you right now to take a moment when you leave this live stream and go over to Beacon Hill Worship Center Facebook page, YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, follow him on Facebook. I promise you, your life will thank you. Your future life, in present life, will thank you for it. He is a coach. He is an entrepreneur. He is a senior pastor. He is a superintendent. So you'll oftentimes probably hear me in this refer to him as Soup, which is short for superintendent. Or sometimes I really take the T off and I just say soup as short for super, like superhero. All that will make sense in just a few minutes. So as you're coming in, make sure you tag your company name in the comment section. If you haven't launched that one yet, just put the name in there, or just say, hey, TBA, to be announced. It's coming soon. Without further ado, I want to bring in my special guest right now, Pastor Wheeler. Pastor, how you doing?
Doing great this evening, Draper. Doing great.
Wow. Look, this is a great moment, because I always say it's always history in the making, because there's so much I can say about you. I remember growing up in Draper Memorial, which was Byrne Avenue at that time, or Church of God in Christ, where my grandfather was a pastor. And I don't know about y'all, like there's certain people that come into your life that at a young age you really don't know, you don't know why they're really there, but they have somewhat of an impact on you, and you don't know what it is. Like, you're just like, okay, there's something about this person, and you may not have talked to them, may not have conversations with them, but you just know, okay, it's something about that person. I've always felt that way about you, Pastor. Growing up and watching even First Lady, like growing up, seeing you and First Lady together, it was always something. I always thought it was just how smooth you were as far as a dresser, And let me go ahead and plug this right now, because I can do this on this platform. He is an entrepreneur, but he is also one of the owners, along with my brother and myself, of Nadal Clothing Company. So this is a shameless plug. Guys, if you are looking to come out of this quarantine the right way, we specialize in custom suits, men's custom professional wear. So go over, when you get done with this, shameless plug, to Nadal Clothing and inbox us. But I didn't know what it really was. I felt like it was something, but later on, now I definitely, most certainly, I understand it. You have been a very power impactful person in my life. I feel like in the time that I've been at the Beacon, I've grown personally, I've grown spiritually, and I've even grown as an entrepreneur under your leadership. And as entrepreneurs, I think a lot of people who are watching this, you can agree to what I'm getting ready to say. As entrepreneurs, we're just wired differently, and I personally believe, and this may seem so far off to the left or right here, but I personally believe that it takes a unique leader to lead an entrepreneur. Like, I personally believe that, at least for myself. I'll say for myself, I know that it was going to take a specific leader, and I found that in you. And Pastor, I appreciate you so much. I want to start this conversation off with something you taught me. There's so many things that you taught me, but there's one thing I remember as we were sitting down getting ready to put the deal together before Nadal, and we talked about this first time I heard this saying was starting with why. Oh, yeah. You talked about this. There's a guy named Simon Sinek that you came in contact with that talked about this. I want you to talk about why that's so important. Some people have heard me talk about it, and every time I've talked about it, I've always given you credit for it, but I don't think I can articulate it the way that you can. So if you could share with us the importance of starting with why as an entrepreneur.
Well, let me start first by saying thank you so much for this invite.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for the invite and to be on this platform with you. As you know, I'm very passionate about this conversation as it relates to entrepreneurship and business. Let's start with why conversation for me, because of the way I was wired. When I was in rooms or at table with people, it seemed that the table was always filled with people that could answer the question how and the what. But my brother and I sort of wired alike, and we had a lot of conversations about it. And especially in the church world, you be at a table and everyone's talking about how we're going to do and what we're going to do. But no one really focused on the why we were going to do it. And so what happens when, from Simon Sinek's book, what I learned, when I read the book, it's like a light bulb went off for me. For the first time in my life, someone was actually speaking my language. And the reason the starting with why is so important is, like with anything that you do in life, there are going to be obstacles. Everything that you do in life, there are going to be obstacles. And oftentimes what happens is when you start with the what or how, when obstacles come, oftentimes that's what causes us to sometimes give up on a dream. But starting with why has a different type of focus for the person. There's an example that I use sometimes with starting with why I think anyone can understand. It's like if a family is going to go on vacation. Let's say my family and I are going to go on vacation. And just Sabrina and I, we're talking. That's my wife, Sabrina. We say, hey, we're going on vacation. We're going to go to Italy. Saying we're going to go to Italy is great. That's where we're going to go. We're going to fly. How we're going to get there is fine. That's a little different than Sabrina and I coming together and saying, hey, we've gone through a pandemic. We've poured out a lot. We're spent. We need to get away and connect. And so what happens now, the difference in those two models, one is we're just going to go on vacation. One, I'm starting with why, which means we're spent because of the pandemic. So then when tough decisions need to be made prior to us actually going on that vacation, whether it's budget, whether it's us saying, hey, are we going to go out and eat steak tonight? Or are we going to put money away because we started with why and we got to reconnect and it's not just about going on a trip. And so that's what starting with why is all about. And it can be applied to your business as well. I also teach with starting with why. Another important thing is that your why becomes your sifter. Entrepreneurs really need to start with why, because there are all kinds of opportunities that are going to come your way. They're all kind of, and some of those opportunities are good opportunities, but they may not be the opportunity for you. I've talked with so many entrepreneurs, young and old, who've got hung up on this particular thing, meaning here you are, you're focused on something. This is what I believe, this is my season to do this or whatever it is. But then here's a side opportunity that comes in. And because that entrepreneur did not start with why, they have nothing to sift that opportunity through. And so what why does, if I start with why instead of what, why gives me a sifter that when other opportunities come into my life, I could take that opportunity. I don't care if it's someone else says it's an opportunity of a lifetime or what. Once I sift it through my why, if it don't sift, then it answers my question for me instead of emotions having to answer my question for me. And I also say when it comes to why, a person should be able to communicate their why in a sentence. When you're writing your vision or whatever, it may be 3 or 4 pages. But a sifter needs to be something you can pick up real quickly when an opportunity comes your way, because it's what's going to allow you to remain focused. And it's what I've been able to apply to my life and what's allowed me to navigate some real turbulent terrain in my life and still remain focused. That's the biggest problem with entrepreneurs is remaining focused. And I believe starting with why. And I'm at any table with anyone, that's what I bring to the table. I'm going to ask the question, why? It could be the greatest deal. It could be millions of dollars at stake, but I have to answer the question of why. And if I'm going to be on a team, I will require that team answers the question why, because when it gets hard, we can always go back to the why, and the why is going to give us why we got to fight on.
Wow. And there's another thing that you talk about as it relates to why, and that's collaboration.
Absolutely.
That is something that, again, these are little nuggets that I've learned from you that, I was just like, man, I'm kind of blown away. Like, okay, yes, this actually makes sense, because a lot of times going back to that why, when you're talking about building a business as an entrepreneur, we oftentimes deal with, okay, what is it I'm going to do? Or, how am I going to get it done? But then that other side, once we move past that, figuring that out, it's that collaboration. And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we can get caught up in really just trying to do it all ourselves.
Yep.
Building a business, we feel like, it's my idea, it's my passion, no one's going to get it like I got it, and I got to go after it. And then what ends up happening is that initially, I know probably that it starts that way, but you'll see people 10, 15, 20 years in who are still building solo. Can you talk on collaborations and the importance and the power of collaboration?
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest weaknesses that we have, especially in the African-American community. And there's a trust issue there. And so there's some things we have to work through on our own. I started in ministry 15 years ago, and pastoring 15 years ago. And it's something I embraced. And one thing I embrace, there will always be people at the table with me that are better at things than I am. Whenever you get at the table with someone and they got to be the best of everything, then there's no oxygen in the room for everyone else. And guess what suffers when you're that way? Your organization, your company, your business is what suffers. Your church, whatever it is, it's going to suffer when you got to be the best at everything. And so what I've gotten comfortable with, and I encourage every entrepreneur to get comfortable with bringing people to the table that are better than you. And what that does, that allows me to be free, not to have to be an expert in everything. I can actually focus on what I do, on my why, and bring people to the table that we can trust and collaborate with that are better at other things. And you're going to find that they're more likely to be loyal to what you're doing. They're more likely to connect with what you're doing because they understand there's enough oxygen in the room for everyone. I often say when you're talking about big picture, I think that a big picture vision has to be big enough for other people's dream to be able to come true also under that umbrella. And so we try to dream that way, big picture. You often heard me say success for me, and I live collaboration. Success for me is not about getting to a mountaintop. If I get to a mountaintop and I'm on that mountaintop alone, that's not success for me. That's just not the way I'm wired. Now, I'm not saying this for other people. It may be other people that may think that way. When I get to a mountaintop, I want someone on that mountaintop with me. Even if it's a trailblazing effort that I'm doing, I want to make the path so clear that the people who are with me, that they don't have to stumble in the same steps that I stumble in. And that whatever area, whatever lane that they're in, that lane is also needed at the mountaintop. And so collaboration is very, very important. But why? Starting with why is very important before you go into collaboration. Because starting with why, what why will do, it will ensure that you're connecting with the right people. And there are some collaborations that are not good collaborations. Because what happens is if you clearly start with your why, and there may be someone who's good at something, but their why may be in a whole different field than your why is. Meaning if I'm selling apples and I believe apples is my why. I'm selling apples because I believe there's a certain vitamin in apples that's going to save the world. And I had a dream about it. So I'm selling apples. But here's another person that may be a good person when it comes to marketing, but this person don't value apples. I mean, and they're clear that, I don't believe in apples. I don't care how good of a marketer they are. If they don't understand my why, if they are in conflict with my why, then that answers the question about whether I can collaborate with that person. Don't mean they're a bad person, they're just not the person for me. I take them back through the sifter, and it answers the question about collaboration. I've gone through that several times. I've had that in relationships where others will be looking on and they'll think, man, that's a perfect match for them. I hope Wheeler, you need to meet this guy, Wheeler, this young lady, they're going to be great for you. And in your mind, in the conversation, when you sit down, all I'm doing, everything that they're saying, I'm sifting it through my why. Because if you don't sift it, they can become more of a distraction. And you may be successful at something, but not successful at the thing. And that's what happens when we find ourselves coming to the end of our lives. And as Diggs often says, we start filling the cemetery with potential because we got distracted. And so collaboration is very, very important. And I teach it relentlessly because I believe that the big things that are going to be done in community, in our lives, and in business, we don't do them alone. We do them with others.
You said something that jumped out, and I wanna switch on that as it relates to community. One thing that I love about my church, the Beacon Hill, is that it's a community church. And coming there's some things that, again, that I just got exposed to as an entrepreneur in ministry that was literally life-changing. I've never heard, anyone talk about a community church. I've never heard any of those things. But another thing that you talked about was at one point the 7 mountains of culture. And I remember sitting, I think it was like a Bible study one night, sitting in that and hearing you talk about that and just really like almost wanted to be on the floor like, wow, I've never heard this, because so many times as entrepreneurs, especially believers, we oftentimes there's this tug of war in our mind on, business and God, like business and church. I want to do this business idea that I feel like I'm passionate about, but I also want to love and serve God. Can I do both? And then there's like this tug of war of like, I got to pick one. I got to pick either I'm either going to do business or I'm going to serve God. And oftentimes what happens is most people go on the other side of that and they just say, you know what, I'm struggling financially. I feel like this is a great idea. So I'm just going to go all in this business. And, yeah, I'll say that, God gets the glory, if I get to that point, but can you talk about, and I know that was a mouthful there, can you talk about a couple of those things as it relates to the 7 mountains of culture, but also dealing with that person who may be in their mind kind of just that tug of war on, can I do business and can I love God at the same time?
Yeah, and I think they'll tie together real well. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 25, it says, and God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, and the cattle according to their kinds, and everything that creeps upon the ground according to its kind, and God saw that it was good. Verse 26 says, then God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps up on the earth. Now that just resonates with me when you talk about dominion. That means dominating. And for some reason in Christendom, we feel that that's not language that we use, dominate. And we think about dominate just hoarding over a person. But when you think about industry and dominating in industry, it simply means being the best in your industry. And I believe when you're talking about the 7 mountains of culture, I can't take credit for that. It's something that I read some years ago that just spoke to me. I think the author of it was a last name Cunningham or something like that. But those 7 mountains of culture really resonated with me, because what it suggests is that, most of the time in church, when a person goes into business, even if they have a heart for God and say, hey, I'm going to have a business, I'm going to run this business as a believer, it's going to be a kingdom business. Let's say they've got good intentions. Normally what happens is that person actually sets up a subculture, meaning if they're going to start whatever it is, they don't compete with the mainstream. Instead, they come alongside everyone else. And it's like it's a substandard industry. I'm in real estate, but it's a kingdom real estate business. So this means I can't compete with the 5-star real estate business, because I'm a kingdom business. That's what we got to, when I talk about the 7 mountains of culture, I believe that God is calling us now to actually dominate in the 7 mountains of culture. In those 7 mountains of culture, those areas of influence that are in our world, that I believe in order for us to bring the type of kingdom change we want to bring, then kingdom people need to be leading in those areas. And sometimes it's sort of hard for people to think, because they think in their mind, I have my church me and I have my business me. And so my entrepreneur me and my church me, but they really should be the same people. And when you're not the same person, you're basically sort of like got these split personalities. You get those things crossed up sometimes. But I believe that it's a time now for those who are part of the kingdom to actually, I preached about this, I think last week, coming out of Ephesians. I think I was in chapter 4 and 5, 2, then 5, chapter 2 and chapter 5, talking about how, God, he saves us. He has this divine interruption where he saves us and snatches us out of the hand of the enemy. Then he identifies with Christ, but then he tells us his intention. His intention for us is to put us on display in the earth realm so that the world can see us. And when they see us, it shows them his grace and his mercy, because we're people just like them. But when we are entrepreneurs and we decide, hey, no, I'm going to do this thing God's way, I'm not going to go after the subculture, I want to dominate in the 7 mountains of culture. And so whether I'm in education, I'm in politics, religion, whether I'm in family, the other ones, government, media, arts and entertainment, and business, whichever one of those 7 mountains that I'm in, that my why leads me to, I'm going to dominate in that. Mm-hmm. When they talk about my city in that particular area, I want my name to come up. I'm not attempting to set up a subculture. I'm going to be a part of the culture, and I'm going to change. That's the only way we change culture, not by setting up a subculture, but it's when you get into that particular industry and show them how to do it actually the kingdom way. And so he puts us on display for the world to see. So how does it look if I'm on display, purchased by the blood of Jesus, and I'm on display, supposed to be able to show the world what success in the kingdom looks like, but instead I'm not taking advantage of things like this, to where I get systems in place and processes in place on how to make my business successful. Instead, this is what happens in the kingdom. This is the challenge for us all. We specialize in, I call it sort of like spiritualizing and godifying things. In other words, let me go back to the apples. If I'm selling apples and I started off at, hey, this is my vision. I'm gonna be an apple distributor, and I can see it breaking $3 million in 5 years. As a saint, we have the ability, and we all specialize in this. If you're an entrepreneur and you ever failed at it, this is what saints normally do. We normally, because we don't put these type of things in place, we're not willing to invest in systems and learning. We just want it to just fall out of the sky. But then when it fails or when it underperforms, we have this thing that we say, well, it wasn't God's will. Maybe, and it's not that it wasn't God's will. It's just that we didn't apply ourselves, and we didn't put ourselves in the right spaces to learn the systems, to build scalable systems within our organization so that we could actually reach that particular thing. Or we didn't start with why, and we got distracted by 100 other things and never really focused on the thing. And so when it comes to the 7 mountains of culture and really succeeding as a Christian in business, I believe that people like yourself and others that I'm meeting and coming in contact with are just sort of fed up with that explaining it away, explaining failure away. And, it's all about God. God decided not to. It's not that I wasn't lazy. I didn't apply. I didn't invest. I didn't put the work in. I didn't have the ethics. I wasn't willing to learn. I didn't collaborate. I didn't start. None of this stuff is our fault. It's all, well, it wasn't God's will. And so it failed. I just told you he wants to put us on display.
Yes.
He wants to put us on display. And so how does it benefit God for me to be in business, saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled preacher in business that's failing?
Yes.
And you think he wants to display that? And he's a God that's never failed at anything. And so we're his children, then we should have the same type of a resume as well of success. And I believe that that's where we should be right now.
My God. Hey, if y'all are watching this, y'all are enjoying this, throw some hearts, some thumbs up on the screen. I'm taking all of this in as if this is my first time hearing it all over again. And I've been guilty of that myself. As an entrepreneur, you start businesses and they don't go over well. Right. It either folds, you put so much money into it and you don't get it back. And then the first thing that you say is, maybe it wasn't God's will. It wasn't his plan, for this to happen. And we do that. And it talks like that word dominate was something that, it's a scary word in the church. It's a scary word as it relates to Christian entrepreneurs because we look at it as such a bad word that, when you talk about, I should dominate my industry. But quite frankly, if God's name is on it, his name is on my business and I am a kingdom entrepreneur and business person, then, like you said, it's going to succeed. But we got to do our part and make sure that we're implementing tools, processes. We're being mentored by the right people. We're being coached by the right people. And even I would say this because this is me personally. My personal testimony is making sure that we're up under the right leadership as it relates to our church, the church that we attend. And I'm never, for pulling people away from where they are. But I will encourage, if there is an entrepreneur who's on here who's saying, look, man, I'm hearing what you're saying. And I'm missing that piece. I need a leader. I need a pastor, that's kind of wired like I am, as it relates to entrepreneurship that can teach me truth, but also lead me and coach me at the same time. I want to encourage you. Beacon Hill is a place. I found it there. As an entrepreneur. And I was telling an entrepreneur this a couple weeks ago offline. Me and him were having a conversation and I was telling him about you. And I was saying, the way that you're wired, I said, if you ever sat down in a conversation with my pastor, I promise you, your life would change because it would be like a light bulb that immediately would go off in your head, and you will understand that, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. Pastor, you've done some amazing things. Your resume is stout. You're the type of leader that is not just a person who's just talking, good talk. Because I think some people, we can articulate well, but we don't have. And this is another word you taught me about building a body of work. And I want to freeze right there because I want you to deal with that. I want you to deal with the importance of, as entrepreneurs, building a body of work, because you've done that. And we're going to talk about that in just a few seconds.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think it's important for the entrepreneur that's looking for coaching. I'm going to do this right now. I know where I am, and I'm a guest on this. But there are some coaches that of that when you say their name, you don't have to say anything about them. You can just say, I can say Nick, or I can say Saban.
Nickelodeon.
Nothing else has to be said. You know what I mean? It's like, why is that? It's because he's built a body of work wherever he's gone. And so I think as entrepreneurs, we have to do that as well. And that body of work is not always about some big business success that you've completed. It can also be sticking with something. You know what I mean? Sticking with something, and that's part of building your body of work. And it starts at small things. You have people who want to lead, but they can't show you anything that they've led successful. But they got advice and they want to go. I mean, have you run a good Sunday school? Have you led a good vacation Bible school or a fundraiser at your church or for the JCs or some club or your fraternity or something? Where's your body of work? What have you done successfully? Show me where you've led someone, a group, Pee-wee football team, something that you've done, band booster, something that you've done successful. That's how you start building your body of work, because we live in a time now to where when it comes to advice, so many people are just freely giving it. But show me your body of work. What have you done? It don't mean I can't learn something from you, but I also want to know a body of work, because I don't want to just get caught up in talk. I don't want to be your experiment, if you'll allow me to say it that. And so entrepreneurs building a body of work, sticking with things, seeing things to the end, and understand it. Sometimes it may not make you money, but if you can show a track record of success, it still becomes a part of your body of work. And it may sometimes even be making someone else successful. But when you do that, when you contribute to it, then it becomes a part of your body of work as well. Don't get so, a flyer, a flyer without a body of work is just a flyer. And they come a dime a dozen. You know what I mean? So I always inquire about the body of work. I hope that sort of like answers you.
Absolutely. And you've, Pastor, you've led, you've been pastoring through a pandemic, pastoring through a crisis, which is a whole nother level of a body of work that will be added to the resume. And as serving there, I can say that you've been doing it in a very successful way. There's one thing in particular that happened a couple years ago that I really want you to tell this story on, for those who may not have ever heard it. And then again, this is me being exposed to ministry as an entrepreneur like I've never had before. I remember coming to the Beacon, and when I got there, this story as well as anyone else that I've shared it with. When we came there, we were just coming to just be there and to serve. I didn't know what role or capacity that looked like. I wasn't looking for a position or a title at that particular point or anything. It was just, hey, I need to be under some teaching. I need to be mentored. I need to be coached. I need to be in a place that I feel is safe, because at that particular moment and season in my life, I felt very fragile. as a leader, as a young leader, I felt very, very fragile. And I knew I needed to be somewhere that I can open up and just be safe, And when I mean open up, I don't mean out in the streets, just living reckless and just having someone to condone that type of behavior, but be enough to tell me, hey, look, dude, you need to get yourself together, or I see something in you. Let me pull that leader out of you because you can get past this moment. And I remember the story of the plaza deal and how that went down. And for those who don't know, Beacon Hill Worship Center is in Madison, Alabama. If you're ever in Madison, Alabama, going down Old Madison Pike, it is literally 5 minutes from Bridge Street. If you're in the Huntsville area, you know what I'm talking about. There is a plaza that the church has purchased a couple years ago that is adjacent to that particular church on Miller Boulevard that's on Old Madison Pike. There's over 70,000 square feet of office and retail space that the church purchased. Now, here's the thing. Not every pastor could walk through that. I mean, I think that individual, that leader has to be wired and they have to be structured in such a way that type of transaction takes place. I want you to share with the people your story on how that happened as an entrepreneur, because that took some entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship conversations that had to take place. But in fact, I believe it was a vision and a dream that God had given you at some point too as well. So if you would just share that story for the people.
Okay. That's an interesting story to share. Yeah. It's absolutely. It's started the church in Madison. Madison is an expensive place. It's considered one of the best places in the United States to raise a family. But commercial property is very, very expensive in Madison. We came here 15 years ago, leased space and leasing the space, at least 3,000 square feet of space here in Madison to start a church. And from that point, God gave us his plan for the city of Madison. That was something he wanted to do through the kingdom. What it was that God wanted to do seemed impossible, even to me. But I'm a country boy from the red clay hills of Brundage, Alabama. And I was crazy enough to say what God said. And so I shared with our church, our young congregation, this was the vision. This is what God told us, the building that we were leasing. I told him, I said, I know the Lord, I saw it in a vision for us to purchase this building. Church got behind me on that, purchased the building. But then this next thing happened to where I shared with them that the plaza that's adjacent to our church, that I believe the Lord wants us to purchase that. And everyone that knew Madison knew that, first of all, the property wasn't for sale. Second of all, to do something like that, you're talking about a multi-million-dollar deal that needs to be brokered. And so I remember having conversation with colleagues. And I'm saying this because, it's the principle, starting with why. I started with why. And so can you imagine leading a church, being in church all of your life? I knew how to do church. So I had a button I could hit to put church on autopilot and just do church the way I knew how to do church. But I knew that God had called us to do something more than just have church. He wanted us to be the church in this community. So I began to share the vision with the church. Even some of my colleagues, I would sit them down when they come into my office. I said, well, I had a whole plot of the property on the back of my wall. And I would share with some of my colleagues and say, they asked me what's going on. I said, Harry, is this the vision? The Lord showed us this, and I'm believing this is what God is going to do. And I'm telling you the truth. I can remember being they didn't do it in my face, but almost laughed to scorn for even suggesting something so outlandish in Madison. I had one person to even tell me that, Wheeler, you know I love you, brother, but I think you may have missed God. And God, I don't believe God told you Madison City. God meant Madison County. And with Madison County would not be as expensive as Madison City. And so I said, well, no, I'm sure of what he told me. He said Madison City. And that's what we're believing. Long story short, as we continue to move the ministry forward, we had opportunities that came our way to do other things, to move other places. Banks that wanted to do business with us, that we want to build a church somewhere. Well, we could have easily built a church somewhere else. But I started with why. And I knew what God had shown me and what God wanted to do. He wanted to take to where a church could really be a community church. Long story short, we come, 15 years later, and we were brokering a deal for part of some land that's connected to the plaza, getting ready to close the deal. And as you said, there's a certain level of conversation that you have to be able to have when it comes to that level of business. The city had already put thousands of dollars into this particular plot. It's actually considered a key development area in Madison. If you look at Madison's 20-year strategic plan, the property that we now own is a KDA, key development area for the city. So we had the conversations through the leading of the Holy Spirit. You know the story. We weren't prepared for it. We didn't have a car wash. We didn't even have a building fund to start to close this deal. Now, you're talking about a multi-million-dollar deal that would normally we would have to have upwards of $1 million to close this deal to actually come to the table with. Can I tell you we didn't have to raise a penny to get this deal done? Why? How did this happen? When he said he made us and restored us back into our right standing with him, when he says dominate, there needed to be a story on record in history that says we can still do this, that we can still do this. And I can tell anyone, I don't care what business, I happen to be in the business as a pastor, but can I tell you now, we own a plaza with gas station, we have churches in the plaza, all kind of businesses in this plaza. We're brokering deals even right now with other businesses that want to do business with us. And it's just amazing the way God did that, but it's all about a body of work. I couldn't have this conversation with someone if I didn't have a body of work. So when an entrepreneur come to me and they tell me something, that whatever the business is, and hey, my goal is to do, I'm just starting, so I want to do $500,000 the first year or the second by my third year. I can dream with that person because I have a body of work. I've seen God move, and I know that if you put the principles in and you do the work, now it didn't just fall out of the sky. I did a lot of work. I invested our church. I invested a lot of my time. I invested a lot of my time in building relationships. We invested a lot of money in ensuring that the church had a structure. We were structured in a way that could actually facilitate these type of deals. And so when it happened, we were able to walk right into it. Long story short, we closed on the property. We own the property. And I'll say this right now as well, Draper, we were able to hire Draper on.
Yes.
He, up until 2 weeks ago, he was he is our youth pastor, and he runs the plaza for us and does a phenomenal job. It's taken it. I mean, we're on a trajectory now. We're talking about that place is going to be the place you can go to find the best of everything. And he's really got great leadership in that. But I guess it's the first time he's saying it publicly. Just 2 weeks ago, he has a different role in our organization for our holdings corporation now. We haven't gone public. I'm saying it right here on your platform. He is now the chief operating officer for Collaborative Holdings. So y'all give him some hearts. He has a new role, the chief operating officer for Collaborative Holdings. In other words, his ministry responsibility is to manage our portfolio as it relates to commercial real estate. And that's a huge job. And I'm telling you, the things he's talking about, I see him walk through it every day. And that's why we hired him on. We're super excited about what we're able to do in the kingdom as it relates to that. But Draper, that's our story. And I've had other pastors. We have business. And can I tell y'all this also? I'm sorry, you got me in the wrong story.
Go.
About the property, it's not often that you close on something or you get something and you literally day after you have people giving you offers for it. People want, and we could make money and go build a church debt free tomorrow if we wanted to. But that was not the why. What God wants to do, he wants to show, and he chose I think it's probably one of the toughest communities in Alabama to do something like this. For a church to get a hold of this kind of commercial property in a key development area in Madison, Alabama, it just doesn't happen. I mean, we're just miles away, I think, from it may be the second largest research park in America. I think 2 miles away from the second largest research park. We are the gateway coming from that research park into Madison, and great relationship with our city. And we're excited about what the future holds. But that's a process that requires you to start with why, because there are going to be a whole lot of distractions. I don't care if you are an attorney, you're a doctor, a counselor, whatever it is. You got to start with why. And even when other people look at your vision that you have, and they may laugh you to scorn, but I promise you, if you do it God's way, you'll see who have the last laugh. You'll see who have the last laugh. So that's our story on that.
My God. And listen, y'all, we're gonna do a part 2 of this, and I'm gonna have to creatively figure out the story, telling my side of this story. Y'all have heard my pastor's story. I have a side of it too as well that is life changing. And I promise you, like I've said, being under right leadership and being under the right people who can mentor you and coach you as a Christian entrepreneur can change your life. If not, what ends up happening is that there are a lot of painful lessons that you'll have to learn the hard way. And at that point, we can't blame anybody but ourselves. We can't blame God for that. And I believe the same way that God put Beacon Hill Worship Center and Pastor Wheeler on display, I believe that he can do the same thing for your business and for your organization, regardless of how long you've been doing it. I know a lot of people are probably saying, look, man, I've been at this thing for 25, 45 years and I'm exhausted. I'm tired. When is things going to change? Look, I'm here to encourage you, just like you just heard, that if it can happen for us or them, it can happen for you too as well. But you got to start with why. That's so important because, like you said, there's been so many distractions. Even in that plaza, like you said, offers, like there's so many distractions and good, what would be considered almost like good distractions.
Yeah.
Like, hey, y'all should take that, that's a good deal, but it goes back to understanding your why. And I remember, like I said, the first time you shared that with me, my life was changed. And I pray that for those who are watching this right now, that your life has been changed. So look, again, right now, I want you to do me a favor. If you have not followed, make sure that you are following this community, Selling the King's Table, which is designed for Christian entrepreneurs and business-minded people just like yourself. Also, when you in this live, go over right now and make sure that you follow my pastor, Pastor Anthony Wheeler. Go over to Beacon Hill Worship Center, YouTube, Facebook, right now on Instagram, and follow Beacon Hill Worship Center. Join us on Sunday mornings for live worship at both 10:30, led by our senior pastor, Pastor Wheeler, and 12:15 by our Butler campus pastor, Pastor Willie Diggs. I'm honored to serve at the Beacon. I'm honored to serve at the Plaza. I'm happy about the new position. Man, this is a big deal. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'll get emotional. Because honestly, for me, you got to understand, I always had an entrepreneur mindset. I did not know that I could be an entrepreneur, love God, and serve and do business in church. I thought that it was either one or the other. And since I've joined the Beacon, since I've become a part of the ministry, my mind has been blown away, and my life and family's life has been forever changed. Trust me on that. I'm going to do a separate live on that where we're just going to have a powwow and sit down with some coffee and our legs crossed over a fire and cook some s'mores and share this story with you all. Look, I'm excited about it. I hope that you all have gained something out of this. I hope you've learned something out of this. Be sure, again, to stay connected with us. I'm going to ask Pastor if you would do this. As we end this live, if you would just simply pray for every entrepreneur who's watching this and future entrepreneurs who may be watching this too as well, who have not launched a business, and any final words that you want to share with them that God has given you. I want to give this opportunity for you to do that at this moment.
Well, again, I thank you so much for the invite to share and be on the platform with you. Again, to each and every one, let's start with why is just a big thing. I don't want to add anything because I go on for another 10 minutes, but I'm passionate about this and I can talk this all day. But I do want to pray for them as you've asked me to do. Father, I thank you so much for each person under the sound of my voice, every man and woman that has a dream, that has a desire to do business. God, I pray now that they will have people in their lives that will give them good wisdom and good advice as it relates to steps to take. I pray that before they for those who haven't started, before they start, that they'll count up the cost. That they may have a good idea, but they'll pause for a moment to ask the question, why? Because it is why that is going to allow them to withstand the storms of life. And so I pray, God, that something that has been shared today will encourage them to know that dream can become reality, that they too, and as a Christian, they can thrive as a Christian. They don't have to just survive, but they can thrive as Christians in business, and that they will embrace this dominating the seven mountains and leading in the seven mountains of culture. That they can hear this call of you calling them to the top. This is the only way the world is going to be changed. It's when God conscious people are leading the organization. So I pray now, oh God, that the right connections will be made, the right investors will come their way, and that they'll be able to go further, faster because of their connection with selling the King's Table. God bless you. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor.
Absolutely.
Y'all, I love you all. Thank you all for your support. We will see you all next time.